everybody, welcome back. Mr. Walker here. I'm going to cover with you our next lesson in Amplify. We are on 7C, Subunit 1, Lesson 12. Digging up the body, Harlow rethinks again. Harlow was the doctor that treated Phineas Gage when he had his horrible accident. Okay? This is years down the line, and Phineas Gage is gone. Okay? Phineas Gage died from an epileptic seizure, eventually in San Francisco, and his body was buried. Why is that important? Well, Dr. Harlow was learning more and more about the brain because scientists in general are learning more and more about the brain. And there were still people who didn't believe him about what happened. Okay? What you have to do in this assignment is fill out all of the answers on slides number 2 and 4. Slide number 2, what we're basically doing is going through some true-false questions. The writing is over here on the left, and the answers are over here. Okay? You have to choose on each of these whether this is a true or false statement. That's it. These are pretty straightforward and pretty easy. On slide number 4, however, we have some much more interesting questions. Slide number 4 asks us to kind of come to a conclusion about what Harlow thought and what Harlow wanted. So, in short, Dr. Harlow made a request to Phineas Gage's mother, who was still alive after his death. Can I dig up the body and examine it for science to further our understanding of what happened to your son? And she said yes. This had a number of different effects. The biggest one, the single biggest reaction you get from this is they got his skull out of the dirt, and it was clean now, right? It didn't still have flesh and brains and all of the other stuff attached to it. It was much cleaner. And that allowed them to look directly at the skull. And when there's a giant piece of bone missing out of one section, people can no longer dispute the fact that this happened. Because remember, there was plenty of people out there who discounted Harlow and said that didn't happen. There's no way in this universe that man had an iron rod driven through his skull and he lived through it. There's no way. But by having the actual skull, and luckily enough, the tamping rod itself, he could literally recreate it, right? He could set the rod and say, look, this fits through here. Here's the path it took. That became indisputable evidence. In addition to that, it allowed him to connect the thoughts that people were having about whether brain function was localized or broadly central, and so forth. And that was also effective at proving his point. Him being able to say to people, look, this is where the thing went, and that's why it had this effect, it became indisputable. They could say, well, here's all the eyewitness reports of what happened and why it happened. So what do you need to do? Well, in this first section here, you just have to describe what physical evidence proves his point. That one should be pretty obvious. As we go a little bit farther down here, you've got your second one that asks you which two quotes convey other new information that about Phineas that Dr. Harlow revealed to his audience. Remember, Dr. Harlow kept a lot of the personal details out of his research in deference to privacy and all of that for Phineas. He didn't want to talk about if Phineas's personality had changed. He wanted to talk about this medical miracle that the man lived in the first place. So that's what he focused on. But if you look here, you'll find a couple of quotes that kind of talk about new information that maybe not everybody knew. Then you want to go down here to the second card. What was he trying to prove by digging up Phineas's body? I'll give you a hint. I just told you the answer to that. And then on the third one, in 1848, he's talking to people about his amazing discovery. How certain was he about what he wanted to tell people? Did he have a hunch? Was he pretty sure? He thought he'd proven it? Or he was so sure that he knew his new understanding would never be disproven? These are varying levels of sureness. How sure was he after the exhumation of Phineas Gage that, hey, we're onto something here? That's it. Those are the two slides you need to do for this. I hope that you've enjoyed this story. I thought it was fantastic, and I will see you guys for the next lesson. Thank you so much.